Hi everyone, welcome to the News from the Real World podcast. My name's Helena.
Chris.
I'm Kelly. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Julian.
And we have 10 articles to talk to you about today. So I'll take the lead. The first one we have is called Oslo, was developed in Philly before it hit Broadway. The show is an epic triumph. And I liked this article because it shows that groundbreaking theater can happen in other places other than Broadway. Like, it can happen in regional theaters, and it's like oftentimes regional theaters kind of get like a bad connotation, I think, because oftentimes they're kind of lumped together with summer stock, which is why it's like, yeah, has never been very groundbreaking.
No. Yeah, I remember the author of that article being really frustrated about kind of the New York-centric view of theater in America, and how they're talking about like this phrase like New York caliber actors, and how it's kind of considered that if you are doing theater in a place outside of New York in America, you're not as talented, or like you're still trying to get. It's like New York is the destination, and everyone's trying to get there.
I've done that. Like whenever I tell someone that I'm majoring in theater, they're always like, "Oh, so you want to work in New York?" And I'm like, "Well, not necessarily."
I know, and that must be even worse for the actors who maybe they don't want to live in New York and spend thousands of dollars living there. Maybe they're much more interested in doing community theater. And would they be viewed as like a failure if they didn't go to New York? No.
Or like maybe they want to work on newer shows which aren't going to be on Broadway, because like shows on, like, it's a lot of risk to put on a show on Broadway, which is why stuff goes other places first to make sure it's good before someone's going to be willing to take that risk.
I wonder how this will attract, tourists, how the tourist attraction to Philly will change through this. Being that there's not much theater there, people will just travel to New York. Will it pull more people towards Philly, and how will that? You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
So you don't think
this is a pretty standard route for a show to take. Like, it usually starts in a city somewhere. Chicago, I know, like, spawns a bunch of stuff. A play I'm writing on right now, which Angels in America, was premiered in San Francisco and then went to Broadway. It's a typical route for a show to take, and it's nothing. No other city has seen an increase in tourism or
it just seems like they were just
becoming a theater.
They were just describing it as being like bigger than regional theater. It was a little bit better. They were describing it as being more. There was more to it than, not as much as Broadway, but not as little as like a stepping stone to Broadway.
That was just the article though. Like I feel like there's plenty of other shows.
I mean, any Lort theater is going to be doing like phenomenal work. So.
I mean, there is a pretty decent theater scene in Philadelphia, and I know because I'm from the Philadelphia area. When I interviewed here, I was talking with the professors about like where I wanted to go and whatnot, and I think because I didn't know much about theater back then, I said like, oh, I'd like to live in New York and work on Broadway, because that was the obvious answer, and they were like, well, there's a lot of theater in Philadelphia, and I think it's just like Philadelphia, and to a lesser extent Chicago, because Chicago is more known, but like the other cities that are not New York, their theater scenes, even if they're comparable sized cities, are
like Kansas City
sort of ignored.
Yeah.
Like no one thinks about that.
No, because no one wants to visit Kansas City as a tourist.
Yeah, because why would
you?
No offense to Kansas City.
No, that place is gross.
So the resident.
Yes. Pretty typical thing about, I suppose.
Yeah. Cupcakes are made somewhere other than where you get them.
Okay.
Well, with
that
final thought, Broadway is like the really expensive cupcake that you get once in your life, and it's like beautiful, and it's got this frosting, and there's like a TV show about the bakery that makes the cupcake, and it's great, and everyone loves it. But like, honestly, you can make it in your kitchen. What's happening?
I don't know, but okay.
No.
Can we please end each article with a cupcake themed metaphor from this point forward?
Yes.
So how about we just go down the line? So Lauren, if you want to introduce an article next.
Okay, so down with 8 a.m. classes. Undergrads learn better later in the day, study finds, which is true.
Yes, I mean, there have been hundreds of sleep studies about children and adolescents and early 20-year-olds proving that we learn better when we're not up every morning at 6 a.m.
And
What has
Yeah.
changed?
Nothing.
It's just because
So disappointing.
I've heard like study finds this like over and over again. And it's like at this point, I feel like I've been reading this article since
Over.
middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know.
Well, the reason that schools, like smaller schools, are on this schedule is so that parents who have to go to work can drop their kids off on the
Yeah.
way to work. Which brings up the question of like, why is work starting that early as well? Like, why not just everyone sleep in?
But once you get to a college level where presumably, your parents aren't dropping you off anymore,
Oh, I know.
well,
But my
Exactly.
my
like I
question-
don't know,
Yeah,
I
no.
don't know why, or at least, because I mean, you could make the argument that there are some people who like to, work earlier in the day and then, sleep at night. I know that might not be us in this industry, but so that maybe then not having like required classes
Mhm.
at 8 a.m.,
Wait,
but
so-
having like optional, like electives at 8 a.m. that you
So-
could take was my thought.
So if you were to get up at 8 a.m., what do you guys personally think would be a good time to get to bed? What if you had to,
I mean,
Waking up for an
theoretically,
8 a.m. class or waking up at 8 a.m.?
waking up for an 8 a.m. class?
So,
Okay,
like,
all right, well, I don't.
yeah.
It doesn't take me that long. To get
Yeah.
there.
You live
But
on campus.
So how, what do you think the appropriate amount of sleep is? Because let's say we pushed all of our classes back to 10 a.m. classes. Let's say that was a standard rule across the university, right?
Mm-hmm.
You said 10 a.m. That's when every class is going to start, or no class before then. So wouldn't that just then people would be getting up later, therefore they'd be staying up later, and now we would just becoming it would be like it's just a cycle. Do you see what I'm saying?
I mean, it just
Like, we're
makes
just going to keep going.
well,
So
the point that
I know, and
the
I get the
study
point.
is making
Yeah.
is that like
Like-
the biological clock of
Yeah.
adolescents / young adults wants to be in that offset to slightly later. So it's not actually a matter
and
of
hold your bed, hold the time that you go to bed at the same.
No,
the
like
whole schedule's offset later. That's the idea.
as a young
Yeah.
person, as an adolescent, you naturally want to stay up later and wake up later.
Yeah.
So, like, instead of working from 8 to 4,
Yeah.
you could work 10 to 6.
But it's also interesting because there have been a lot of sleep studies that and I know that this works for me personally, is that big chunks of sleep are also not what we naturally want, like our bodies naturally want to do. So like at least this week and weeks when I'm off, what I usually do is 3 hours and 3 hours to get the 6 hours that I normally would be getting. And that works really well for me because the time that I tend to be most productive is very late at night. So like a 1 to 4-ish
Should do, like an
window.
afternoon nap and then like
So I take like a really long afternoon nap essentially.
So I not to get too into your sleep schedule, but like when is the afternoon nap and then like when is the actual like second round?
Well, usually like I'll get home around like 5-ish, and so I'll sleep like 5 to 8 or 5 to 9, depending on when I want to sleep. I'll get up, eat something, work
So
until.
what are you gonna do when you have crew from 6:30?
Then I do a normal 6 hours
Then
sleep.
you
But I'm just saying like
And like that
it's,
works
I think
better.
and I think like sleep is just something that's like much more individual than we think it was my kind of overall point with that. And so like a large 8-hour chunk can work for some people, whereas a biphasal sleep schedule, which is what that's called, can work a lot better for other people.
Yeah, and there's like I know there's like some systems like we have like 5 naps. Like there's like the half-hour nap and the hour and a half nap. Like it's this very structured.
I have
thing.
never tried that.
My brother did it at one point in college and it worked, but like made life difficult because not everyone was on his weird ass sleep schedule.
That's true.
Yeah.
And it's also unfortunate how devalued sleep has become. Like there's not a culture just here, but a culture kind of everywhere where it's like, oh man, I pulled 3 all-nighters this week.
Mhm.
And that's like, oh, sweet, dude, that's amazing. As opposed to, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually there are signs around campus. I don't know if there still are, but there definitely were our freshman year that was like, no one wishes they had slept more in college, and it was like, it was basically proposing like doing all these extracurricular. It was like
Oh my
this
gosh.
idea, and
That's
it was such a
bad
weird slogan because I was like, almost every college student I know wishes they slept more.
Well, I think
Yeah.
going off what you were saying, like often like someone will be like, oh, like I'm really tired, like I only got like 4 hours of sleep last night, and then someone's like, I haven't slept in 3 days.
Exactly,
and it's
like it's a competition.
yeah, it's not like this is not a game of who can be the most sleep deprived. Like,
Yeah.
I like respect the fact that you haven't slept in 3 days, and that sucks. But like, that doesn't make me less tired.
Yeah,
Also,
but it's like proving I can power through even though I'm exhausted. But
Also, like
it's
when
another
it's
thing.
whenever, personally for me, whenever I don't sleep at all at night, or like I have a really bad, like only got a couple hours, it is entirely my fault. Like I have a calendar where I can see like when I should have started the project, and I can look at this like month-long timeline and like this entire project that I'm doing that night, and just be like, wow, this is my fault.
I think
Yeah.
that
It's just,
like
it's
A lot of-
all-nighters tend to be the result of like, oh, you should have like, because if you have to do it all in this one big chunk, and you like have to stay up all night, then you probably could have structured that differently. But I think the overall sort of chronic sleep deprivation of like the standard is 6 hours of sleep rather than 8
Yeah.
has more to do with the general amount of stuff there is to do than poor time management in any one given situation.
I agree.
I mean, I have one 8 a.m. class. Well, one 8:30.
Yeah.
8:30. So that 30 minutes is.
only the most dangerous class
But
we have.
yeah, but so I mean, I definitely do plan accordingly on that specific day or the Monday before.
The class is welding.
I've
Yeah, I do.
definitely,
Yes.
I've definitely been screwed a few times where I've been like, oh shit, I've had projects due on Tuesday where I've had to stay up all night and go to the class, and it's less than ideal.
Terrifying.
But
Mhm.
there is something to be said for planning out your schedule, like Lauren said. Whether or not you stick to it or not is the life of a college student, which is definitely really hard. I mean, I know that I have found it so difficult to just get to bed at a good time because it's just so easy to push something off. But as soon as you master that, you're one step closer to at least saving yourself a couple hours of sleep.
My problem is that I see that I have like X number of days left to do something, and they'll be like, oh, well, it's already 11 o'clock, I should just go to bed now and wake up and like, do my life for the next day. And like I can put it off one more day to like, so that I can sleep tonight, and then I end up screwing myself out over later.
I think we should maybe push through. We have so many feelings about 8 a.m. classes.
Yeah, but just to go back to the welding point very quickly. I mean, that was kind of my whole point about not having required classes so early, because I personally have a lot of feelings about having crew end at 10:30, and then having to get home, do homework, and then get to bed in a reasonable amount of time to not be sleep deprived for a class for which, if you are sleep deprived, is very dangerous and is a required class.
And like
Yeah.
last point, it does make it a lot easier when your professor is very understanding of the fact.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there are professors out there, maybe not teaching welding, but
Drafting.
are teaching other classes, let's just say, that are not as understanding and have an expectation. But being that it is welding, our professor is very understanding of the fact that, if you are sleep deprived, he would rather us miss a day than endanger.
Come in, yeah.
All right. Yeah, shall we move on?
All right. So this article is called Hamilton, Hype or $100,000 Value, and it's just talking about sort of how expensive Hamilton tickets have become and how big of a phenomenon it is, and is it really worth all that?
Well, one thing I found really interesting is kind of the whole point of Hamilton was to make both history and theater very accessible to people for whom it is not normally accessible.
There it is.
And then, because of the price limit, has become probably the least accessible thing in theater right now.
Yes.
Yeah. It's still pretty accessible in Chicago, at least from my experience.
That's recent.
No, if you
That
can
was-
still listen
yeah.
to it.
That's very recent.
Yeah.
But like the entire show was sung, so
Yeah.
But the show's kind of message is you can do anything no matter what your economic state is. That is the trend that we see our main character follow the entire show. And then to turn around and have tickets be thousands of dollars is just a slap in the face of fans of the show as well as what the show is about.
And I don't think that I get where you're coming from, but like I don't think that's like I don't think Lin-Manuel's like sitting in the back, driving up ticket prices. I think he's actually on our side. Well, I know, but he's like like he's come out and said like he's like even tried to get more tickets available on the lottery, but he can't. And it's like it's the producers that are like it's not they're not doing this for the theater, they're doing it for the
and I definitely agree because he has definitely done things like have high school performances for inner city high schools, and I know there was a point where because as you pointed out the entire show is sung, there's one moment of the show that is not sung, which is John Lawrence's death. And he released the section of the script that described that because it's the only part of the show that you can't get from Spotify.
What's the daytime thing that they do? They do like a
the ham for ham.
The ham for
ham.
That's
those are on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, but so that's just an example of like not making it at least a little bit more accessible. Maybe not the whole show, maybe not even part of the show, but just making at least the actors and the experience available when to get just tickets to see the actual show is in person.
Honestly, like a ticket to see the show normally like 6-7 months out, if you just bought it from Hamilton for like when it's next available, it's still prohibitively expensive, but it's not thousands of dollars. It becomes thousands of dollars when other people buy tickets and then resell them for more recent dates. So if you want to see it like next week, you better have a trust fund overseas. But if you want to see it in a year, it's
I mean, I know my mom is like an avid fan, and she bought tickets like 6 or 7 months in advance. She bought them like last May for like a couple weeks ago, and she went with her friends. But like the only reason she got to see it, this is the second time she's seen it. The first time she saw it, the only time the reason she got to see it was because she just knew somebody, and that's how I actually got to see it. I was over the summer in New York over the summer, and I went to go see it with Jake Poser because he knew a wardrobe person. So like. There are definitely ways, but like
most people don't know someone in the industry.
But it's very obviously like not everyone's gonna walk around and say you know somebody, but
And I do think the show is a good show. Like there's nothing aesthetically wrong with it. It's beautifully written. It's beautifully composed. So I think that lends itself to the hype and also the value of it.
And I think worth it. I feel like the whole idea of saying like this thing is or isn't worth it is kind of impossible. Like it's an individual thing.
Yeah.
Like for some people, going to see Hamilton is worth it. It being like all of like the money and like all of the or advanced planning or whatnot. And there's some people who, for them, going to see Hamilton wouldn't be worth the amount of time it would take them to go see Hamilton because they don't want to see Hamilton.
Exactly.
Like I don't think there's a way to objectively say it's worth this.
I agree.
Yeah, nothing quite like sitting in the house of a Broadway show and looking over from like this gorgeously composed stage and it's beautiful and it was actually Hamilton. Looking over and someone's on their phone.
Probably has happened.
Oh, yes, it did.
But no. All right, moving on. This next article is called "Unseen Workers Make Stage Magic Happen." It's basically a very, very elementary description of the work that stagehands do, and has some breaks down the job descriptions into some pretty broad categories, such as carpenters, sound technicians, wardrobe assistants.
What does a carpenter do anyway?
What does a carpenter do?
And it says, for example, carpenters construct and set up scenery. They are also responsible for moving scenery on stage during a show.
No,
which is incorrect. But yeah, I found it a little bit interesting that this article was A, posted on the blog, and B, was a most commented article on the blog, given that we obviously all know this. And so I was kind of thinking that perhaps it stemmed from this frustration that there's even a need for this article, because so many people have no idea what we do, and
the author has no idea what we do.
There's also that.
Yeah, I can't count how many times I've explained what a TD is to family members that I've explained it to before, just because like no one knows. But I feel like that's okay.
I think it's because they're reading articles. articles like this. Yeah, I mean, this isn't the first time I've seen an article like this where somebody is.
However, like the ignorance that some people have about theater, I probably have about the medical field.
Exactly.
Like,
no one knows they
like
never
I
represent
could
that.
easily have one of those articles that details like
Jobs
what
in hospitals or something.
exactly
Yeah.
what a nurse practitioner does, what a physician's assistant does, what an administrative assistant does, what a pharmacist does. Like all of these different hierarchies in a hospital, I have no idea about. And to a pharmacist, that a list like that would be ridiculous. But to me, it'd be like, oh wow, look at that, I learned something.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, anytime people get upset about, like, oh yeah, people don't understand the theater industry, it's like, and how many industries do you understand?
Intimately.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think it's like this so much. I think that we all know that we don't understand every industry. I think it's just how people choose to interpret this industry that makes us frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least
I
me
think-
personally.
I think
because,
it's also
yeah.
I think it's also because there is one job in our industry, acting, which is so visible,
Mm-hmm.
and because
That is the point.
like but like because the concept of fame is connected to a job in our industry, and whereas theater in like an utopia, a magical unicorn that doesn't exist, would be, everyone's work is valued equally. But in our industry, it very much obviously isn't. Whereas, like, there aren't really, world famous doctors in the same way.
Well, there are.
But
Within their
not-
field.
But who don't have cult followings like actors do?
Yeah.
This is true.
Who-
Very
Yeah.
few
You wouldn't
people.
go to the hospital if you saw that doctor's name on it, as
Very few
opposed
people
to seeing
have
a
like
show.
posters of their favorite doctor in their room.
Yes, that's what I meant. So it might just be the imbalance of
So you
recognition
said we
rather
just
than
need
the
to
lack
make
of
posters
recognition.
of stage managers.
No, we need to make posters of doctors.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I don't know. As being I've never been a stagehand, but I think I have a pretty good understanding about what the work is like. Reading articles like this is frustrating, but like you guys were saying, I can only imagine how other industries are portrayed and then, published about online.
It's just weird that that article was even presented to us.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
also something I found.
Sometimes I wonder why articles get posted if they're supposed to be, informative, or they're supposed to be like, hey, look, people have no idea what they're talking
I think sometimes it's more of a, like, once a year, everyone just needs to, like, go on a rant publicly about how they're frustrated about this. And this article was that once a year opportunity for everyone who commented on it.
Mhm.
Like, very few people probably even read the article. It's just like, I need to complain about this woman in the supermarket
Who doesn't
who
know?
doesn't know what I do. And I had to explain it to her.
Why are you explaining to a woman in the supermarket?
She was my mom's friend. It was great.
I thought you were just like, I'm now picturing you just in the aisle of the supermarket with the women behind, and you're like, so, tell me, what do you know about the theater industry?
No, she asked where I was going. I went, Carnegie Mellon, and as typical, I got the computer science, and I was like, nah, ma'am, nah.
Okay, well.
Sorry, that was
Oh.
off. Like the
And
train
now-
went off the tracks and
Moving
down the
along.
valley, and that was
Moving on.
Anything about
about.
topics?
no, nothing about.
All right, we're actually on track. Okay, so this article that we'll talk about next is about how OSHA OSHA's investigation into Cirque du Soleil's fallen performer. They issued no fines, and they stated that there were no major safety violations after the investigation into Cirque du Soleil's fallen performer. So just for those of you who do not know what happened, Cirque du Soleil, Disney Springs, there was a major injury. An actor fell 40 feet during a practice session on October 20th. So,
My conceptions of OSHA, which is incorrect, has always been that they'll just fine at the drop of a hat because they enjoy it.
The sadistic government agency.
Yeah, a little bit.
it's like the carnival committee here.
Oh, I have. Okay, just okay.
I'm kidding.
No,
I'm kidding.
I feel like that's going off on a tangent.
But it's completely understandable why OSHA didn't find this Cirque practice session because nothing that the technicians or the riggers or the safety engineers did was wrong. It was more kind of on the actor or the performer that this happened.
And when you're doing that kind of performance, it's an inherently dangerous job.
Yeah.
That's true.
It was interesting though that this article, because I hadn't read anything about this story until reading this article. It was so vague that I had kind of no idea what had happened, and so I was just assuming that there had been something wrong and that they just hadn't gotten fined for it. But then when you explained what happened, it made a lot more sense. But I just found it odd being an article about an incident, how vague it was.
I mean, I think it's clear that, you know, OSHA was kind of in a bind in this situation, particularly because technically Cirque du Soleil wasn't doing anything wrong.
Right.
But it did, from reading the article, it did seem like there could have been measures that could have been put in place, like some form of a hard limit or like a external e-stop, or which I'm sure they had, but maybe maybe the position of that or something.
Well, if they didn't do anything wrong, then how did this performer fall? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think I when I say they didn't do anything wrong, I mean, I think that they were following protocol.
Yes.
Which is like, to them, I mean, they were doing it correctly. Like, that would be, it would be, like, if you're doing everything as according to the book, then how can you possibly say that they're, like, it's their fault, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and I feel like they, like, from OSHA's point of view, they just didn't want to point fingers in this case. I mean, I feel like it could have gone a lot of different ways, but I think that this was probably the least confrontational for OSHA.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think it's also they made an interesting point that like Cirque has kind of, at least the Cirque representative in this article said that we have the highest safety standards in the industry. So I don't know if there was anything about like that they would have been fining Cirque du Soleil. Because, like, if Cirque does some stuff wrong, then obviously everyone's doing stuff wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, is probably true.
Yeah.
They've also had some quite a few accidents.
Cirque?
Not like overall, but like I remember like it's popped up before where they've had accidents.
Yeah. But I feel like it's because the potential for them to have accidents is so much higher than like a standard Broadway production. Like they just have so much more.
And sometimes someone tears their ACL doing a leapfrog move in dance. Like, but I mean, honestly, it's more dangerous because it's in the air.
Yeah. But I mean, as soon as you start doing aerial lifts with automation, like you're going into a completely different realm that like most theater just doesn't even get close to touching. Mm-hmm. But in this case, I'm sure if you look at their numbers, like I'm sure that their accident to non-accident ratio is probably pretty high. I mean, yeah. But, what was I going to say? Oh, I was going to kind of go off topic, but not really. We were just having a discussion in CinoFab about, like loading bricks and loading weight, and, like, how it's really not the best way to do it, but, like, we do it anyways because it's the only way. So, like, if there was an accident, like, we've even seen, like, when we had someone drop a brick, this year, like let's say like as a worst case, like somebody did get injured, like at the end of the day, like we didn't do anything wrong. We were following protocol, but like at the end of the day, like there's a huge risk with that, but there's nothing we can do unless we like what?
It's just a cord method.
It's a cord.
Protocol is no one's standing anywhere near underneath.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, if someone got hit, we actually wouldn't have been following protocol.
I'm sure
we dropped it following protocol.
Yeah. And so, like, this specific situation goes to show that even though you follow all of the safety precautions, there's still possibility for injury, which, is unfortunate. But
and I would assume that at this point, Cirque is looking at how that accident
occurred
and looking at ways to prevent that specific accident from happening again. But there will always be another specific accident that could happen, and ideally, you'd want to have thought through every possible worst case scenario and come up with a way to prevent every possible worst case scenario. But realistically,
it's like when Disney, like when they were getting all their Source 4s, they put like thousands of different components in, and now just all these Source 4s get sold with all these safety components because they just want
Are you referring to the one extra knob?
millions of
Thousands.
the one extra knob. But yeah, I mean, like just like people will always continue to add safety precautions into these products because the only way that they learn that this is an issue is.
And Disney's kind of the king of
And yeah, I was gonna say
excessive safety
Yeah,
precautions.
because everybody and their mother wants to go sue Disney. So
Well, and also like if like an injury happening in Disney would be a scandal in a different way than it is for
Yeah.
Cirque. Like with Cirque, we're all reacting like, well, yeah, it's Cirque, but it's dangerous. With
Yeah.
Disney, first of all, there's like Disney's image
Mhm.
has to have nothing ever go wrong. And also with Disney,
It can't be the
Because-
happiest place on earth if you're in a coma.
no, it can't, unless you have really fun comas. But also, I think part of the reason why Disney's so safety conscious is that because of the way that it's immersive and that it's themed entertainment, if someone gets hurt, it's not necessarily a performer.
Yeah.
So they
That's
have to be
true.
really,
Or a
really
kid.
careful.
Yeah.
very true,
Getting
very true.
attacked by an alligator.
All right.
Well, on a more upbeat note, this next article is Making a Mile of Monet, Field of Scenic Artists. So what this project is a museum curator wanted to redo one of the largest rooms in his museum and to make it into a romantic kind of immersive environment and also a restaurant. So they commissioned these scenic artists to make wallpaper that is similar to Monet's water lily style. And so the scenic artists actually painted a mile of Monet in order to wallpaper this entire room for this kind of themed environment, which is absolutely incredible that this kind of work is still being done and they didn't just like outsource it and have it printed. They are still allowing scenic artists to work on these more massive projects. Yeah, it's a really cool project.
Yeah. Something I found really interesting within that article is when they're talking about how, so the article really goes into depth about the process of creating the wallpaper, and they were talking about how at first they had to all work on like laying down texture because they were recreating an oil painting, obviously, and you can't really achieve the textured feel of an oil painting if you're just painting on something flat. But then, like after that, they sort of all broke into very specific things, and so like one person was only painting lily pads, and like that was what they did for the entire thing. And so it was interesting that the author was talking about how like when they were all working as a team, it was really easy to like collaborate. But once they started doing really specialized work, like it became a lot harder, and they had to break out like this. They had this rainbow cone system where they used like all these rainbow codes to tell people like where to paint, and not getting each other's way. And I don't know, I thought that was really analogous to like theater about how specialized all our work is and how trying to not get in each other's
Yeah, that's
way.
right. Even just in terms of literally, we all need to work in this very small space, and we all need that spot on the stage right now.
Exactly.
We should get rainbow cones.
Yeah, but other than that, I don't know. There's obviously, for us undergrads here, saying recreating Monet is going to bring up some very specific feelings because of Susan Sue's Monet assignment.
Well, and one thing that's interesting with this article and then also the Monet assignment is that like they each sort of took like this person does lily pads, and so it doesn't look like this section was one artist and this section was another artist, because they, rather than subdividing it by area, subdivided it by item. So it all looks cohesive because this lily pad is the same as this lily pad.
Yeah.
Whereas with our Monet, because of the fact that it was sectioned off, you could very distinctly see the different styles of each person's work in each section.
I'd be interested to see like when you blow up a Monet, how the brush stroke that was a 32nd of an inch is now an inch, and how much easier that makes it. Because that was the one thing that really pissed me off about Monet was that just capturing
Scaled down.
capturing all of those. Yeah, I know. But capturing all of those brushstrokes is really
I don't know.
difficult, and I can only imagine what it was like doing it on a full scale. It was probably a very tough thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, they talk about like the texturing for the brushstrokes they did, and like they got real creative with how they created like different sides. Like at one point they're talking about like wrapping rope around rollers,
Mhm.
and then like essentially it was some other
Which
project.
is also very theater. Like,
Yeah.
but to get this texturing one, what if we used potatoes? Like, I feel like that sort of sums up theater.
Yeah, unorthodox methods
Yeah.
in creating projects, for sure.
Well, cool read. Yeah, I'd like to see it in real life.
As every
Where
other
is
cool
it?
read.
Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Cool.
Oh no. Yes.
Leave stones.
Oh no. Excuse me. That's where they went to go look at their sources to paint from. You might
Just look
never
at the
see
size of
it.
the brushes.
Not
The
sure.
brushes are like a foot wide.
So,
Yeah, it's kind of what we did, but in the
Yeah,
opposite
opposite.
direction.
And probably more time consuming
Yeah.
than what we did.
Oh, slightly.
Just a bit.
Does anyone know remember if the article says anything about time frame, specifically about how?
If it said, I don't
I don't
remember.
remember.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, we obviously. Oh my gosh, this scenic artist spent 3 days painting only willow branch leaves.
Yeah.
That was it.
Wow.
That was
Honestly, that's not that
Halloween.
long. Like, you could have said they spent 3 weeks painting willow branch leaves, and I would have been like, I believe that.
Well, it took them 10 days just to get the base coat with all of its
Nice.
texture.
I believe that.
And that was probably with like a team of
Oh, yeah.
5 to
5 to
6.
6.
Well, but also with that base coat, they probably had a lot of, like, that wasn't, wait, you said how many days?
10. for
That wasn't
base.
10 days of straight work. Like, I assume that's also a lot of dry time.
Oh, probably.
Maybe, but by the time you do,
One side,
by the
I
time
guess,
you
yeah.
get all the way
When
down,
you're painting a mile
the
long
first part
canvas.
is probably dry.
That's fair.
It's like the
I think it's kind of hard to, like, wrap my head around, like, what a mile-long painting really means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in my head, I'm picturing a football field, but that's not right.
No,
Like, that's not big enough.
No.
It's
Yeah,
the
it's interesting.
distance from where I live to campus.
I have no
It's a
idea.
20-minute walk.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's a... Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
campus.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
from where you live to campus.
Yeah, no, I'm now picturing I walk to campus and just, like, imagine it. That's, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's
oh my
All right.
well,
Shall we move
well,
on? to
you know,
next?
one day if we ever figure out where it is,
We can all go.
we can all
god. Field trip.
Yeah.
Alright. Next one.
Okay, so Jon Snow is the feature of an article titled "When You're a Stagehand and It Snows 2 to 4 inches on stage every night," which I just love his name in relation to the. Okay, but he's a stagehand at the Lincoln Center Theater in, I believe, New York, where they're doing a performance of How to Transcend a Happy Marriage. And every night it snows 2 to 4 inches. And he's got a job.
Gotta clean it up.
Yeah, he's the follow spot. What I found particularly interesting about this is that, like, the last question in the interview is, how did you get into working as a stagehand? And it was just like 5 years ago, I didn't have a job, and my friend was like, you should do this. And now, you know, he's doing that professionally at a very good theater, and he had no experience working in the industry beforehand, which isn't a narrative you hear very often.
I mean, I feel like it is somewhat. I mean, I thought it was interesting that the question before that he also talks about like just the value of it being who you work with, and I mean, I've heard that a lot. That like no matter what skills you go into an interview with, like if they don't want to be around you at 3 a.m. when the copier is broken, you're not
Yeah.
getting that job.
Yeah. I mean,
That's true.
this is also like theater has seen so many like this is kind of going off point, but like they'll bring it back. So like theater has seen so many like technological improvements over the years. So like for example, like when we incorporated media, like nobody was studying media design at the time, but
No.
somebody stepped in and did it. So like whether or not people can just like, I get that like this guy was, you know, he has no theater experience, but like
No, it's, not like on a national scale. It's a pretty common narrative. Like Jen, who's the head of wardrobes, was like she went to the Naval Academy and then
exactly.
she's here now,
Yeah.
which is amazing. But like this guy is in New York, which is like local one is like where it's supposed to be like impossible to get into.
Yeah, where you're supposed to be like married into it.
Yeah.
That is actually.
Yeah, but I've also heard that Local One is like he had a friend, you know, like Local One I've heard is very incestuous is not the word I want, but that's the word that's coming to mind. It's essentially the mafia, in a little bit,
except for
whereas
rather than crime, it's
theater. So it's like taking that whole saying of it's not what you know, it's who you know to like a whole new level,
which is kind of unfortunate.
I mean, I'd also believe that he's decent at his job.
Right.
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure.
But was he more decent at his job than someone who had 20 years of experience who didn't know this friend?
Yeah.
That's when it kind of irks me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like you can be as highly trained as they make them, but if you walk into the interview without knowing a single person on the board, I feel like your chances are much lower than someone who's had 2 years of experience.
I mean, that's not
just
that's not just for Local One. I mean,
that's just the world. Not even just theater. That's
more
I've never gotten a job in any industry where I didn't know someone already working there.
Yeah.
Oh.
I have.
I just get a lot of handouts. That's all, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, yeah.
No, but I mean, like I have certainly used connections to get work. Before.
I mean, that's to some degree why people even pick the school they go to.
I mean, it's certainly why people pick this school.
Yeah.
And not specifically calling out this. I mean, this is definitely a lot. I know that a lot of people here are here to make good connections.
Yeah,
along with getting a good education.
I don't think anyone picked CMU School of Drama solely for the connections, but I think
it's definitely something that
someone
someone thinks about for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean we're not gonna. It's not like you go to Carnegie Mellon or you're gonna walk into Local One, but like, I mean, you're not even gonna go anywhere near it. But it's like, just it's the same idea that Local One is. I mean, it's even harder. I mean, it's not even. To some degree, it's probably not even about the talent. Even though I'm sure the people are very talented, but I'm sure it's about
and who you're married to and
So it's a shame, but we'll leave it.
Yeah. At least we don't have the same problem in our government, right?
Oh, God.
That's a whole different podcast, I think. Let's move on.
All right. To a completely different topic. This article is called "This Makeup Artist Can Transform Her Face into a Glitch in the Matrix," which I think is a bit of a weird article title. But basically,
it's still going.
Yep, it's been going on long.
3 minutes.
Basically, she does makeup that looks like it shouldn't exist physically, so like putting her eye in a different spot or like making a bunch of duplicates of her face, making it look like her face is sort of fractured, and they're really cool. So.
I don't know. I thought. Sorry, before we did the podcast, I was sort of perusing people's comments on these articles, and I thought the point that you, Julian, made in your comment about how it's really cool, but it's really cool like partially because of the camera and the angle, and like what would it look like if you were viewing it in 3D? Because obviously, if we were applying this kind of artwork to a theater world, we would need makeup like that looks reasonable from all angles.
Right.
Whereas, like for Instagram, part of all of Instagram art, not just the makeup section, is like how it's shot and the camera
But
angle.
this is definitely the optical illusion of it.
Yeah.
as
Oh,
well.
yeah, for sure.
And when I wrote that comment, I worded it specifically as like I wonder, because it could be that she does this makeup and like if she walks into a room, it has that mesmerizing quality that does in the photos, where you just like keep looking at it because it looks real but wrong but real. Or it could be that like it looks good from this angle, and I don't think either of those is less impressive, because if it looks good from this angle, then like there's also all the work of like getting the camera shot just right to make the image work. But if she can make it look good from any angle, that's like impressive on its own in a different way.
The worst part about the article was the title of it. Like, that's
Yeah.
not what a glitch in the Matrix
Yeah, it was
is.
such a weird title.
A glitch in a Matrix is just deja vu when you see something twice. I'm like, what is happening?
I feel like this article is maybe not aimed at people that are super nerdy about the Matrix.
No, it's no.
Leave me alone.
And like the content of this specific artist's work and like who she was circulated through almost every social media platform a good like week and a half before this article
Well,
was written.
it's interesting that this artist is getting so much attention because, I mean, I'm not particularly aware, but someone else had written a comment about how there are so many artists doing this kind of work on Instagram. And so I found it interesting that this particular woman is getting so much attention.
Well, there's a lot of people that do really cool makeup art that is sort of in this genre of sort of the special effects makeup type looks. Are there a lot of people who are doing this specific optical illusion thing?
I don't know. See, I was just bringing that up. I'm not.
Because
Familiar
I've
or
seen
not.
a lot of really
Similar
cool makeup.
trend.
Okay, cool.
Not the same style, but there's a couple artists who have like a similar. Like we're gonna distort the face to make it.
Well, I've seen some mild distortion type stuff, but I haven't actually seen anyone else doing this.
I've seen like just having not like for instance, like here we've got the image where it's like shifted to the side. I've seen people like shifting their face like up or the bottom half up or like changing the shape pretty severely for like there's a lot of people who like become movie characters.
Yeah.
With this.
Well, sure, and like I've seen like a lot of things like making it look like your mouth has been like stretched weird and
Yeah.
or just a lot of cool stuff with shadowing. Like I've seen like a lot of really cool like pop art looks where you make your face look like pop art.
Yeah.
I think this artist. I think a lot of the artists on Instagram and stuff that are doing this are doing it more as a hobby, and I think, at least from what you could like the fact that there's an article about this particular artist makes me feel like she's a little bit more professional. I mean, I know that we only seen 2 pictures there, but I like scrolling.
More.
She's not a professional artist.
Not
she
professional,
was a teacher.
What she did now?
Was a teacher. I think she's
Okay.
making money off of Instagram.
So professional.
Yeah. Now she is.
Yeah.
I mean, power of the internet, I guess.
I mean, there is the whole question of like if you are famous on social media for a thing and that's what sustains you, is
Then
that
you
like
do
a
it
new
professionally.
brand of but is it like a new brand of professional?
No,
Because like she's not going out and doing makeup on other people.
No, but she's.
It's an art form rather. It's still
She
I-
is a
I-
makeup artist, but she's not a makeup artist in the sense that she does
Does
people's makeup for a living.
Yeah.
She's a makeup artist in the sense that she does makeup as art
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
living. I see what you're saying.
yes.
I
There's not
think it's a new brand of makeup artist. I don't think it's a new brand of professional. I think it's a job like any other job.
What I'm trying to say is like, should we be grouping together people, not just makeup artists, but people who have like podcasts and do
Yeah, I mean, like
video
professional
blogs and
vloggers
whatnot.
is what comes to mind for
Yeah.
me, and
Scott and there's professional vloggers and professional
Yeah.
podcasters.
like I don't. Should we be grouping all those people together as one profession? Is what I'm
Not
asking?
as like a new category.
I mean, I would say that there is an industry that is
Internet
what you're referring
entertainment.
to. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I call it.
entertainment.
Well, for that.
Helena?
Moving on to a slightly more serious topic. This article is called "I Am Miss Saigon and I Hate It." It was an article written by a Vietnamese woman about the play Miss Saigon, and essentially talking about how, Miss Saigon and The King and I, which are 2 kind of most recent examples, have very basically stereotypes as Asian characters, and when either of those plays are not being performed, there kind of are no roles for Asian Americans in theater, it feels like. And how the entire message of Miss Saigon is really kind of a bad white savior story, essentially, and how there's this very powerful quote that I'm just going to read that talks about the main character. Spoiler alert, she kills herself at the end. And it says, that for her, being dead is better than being Vietnamese, and the largely white audience has a good cry and feels like they've had an educational experience. And the article also goes into a little bit of detail about how the fact that America's relationship with Vietnam is already so complicated, it's very problematic that this piece of theater that has very two-dimensional representation of the Vietnamese people, and kind of that the entire story arc of most of the characters is about how they're sad that they're not white and sad that they're not American. How all of that is just very problematic.
Yes. Yeah, I worked on this show in the Saigon, like a community theater, a long time ago. Not like that long ago, obviously, because, you know, I'm 20. But I didn't think about the show that hard at the time, because, like, I was on run crew, and I was mostly thinking about where I had to put furniture. But, like, as I was reading this article, I was, like, kept on, like, thinking back to, like, what I remember the show and being like, oh, yeah. Yeah,
it's interesting, like, how we do shows in high school, so, like, young people just sort of becoming conscious of the world are doing, like, really, it tends to be the classic theater shows, so, like, the more problematic shows. Like, I played Mrs. Mears in Thoroughly Modern Millie in high school. That is a white woman in yellowface. I played that role, and just, like, thinking back on that experience is so cringy to me, where I'm like, I hated that was, like, the beginning of my theater experience, essentially.
Yeah. Well, I mean, high school theaters, I feel like they might be a little bit less concerned with the problematic aspects of their shows, and are more looking for, what can we do that the parents will like?
Yes.
Like Grease, like Guys and Dolls.
Why did you name my two least favorite musicals?
Carousel. You know, like, Carousel is an awful play. My God. But we still do it because it's like, it's so beautiful in the music and everyone knows it. We'll come see it. It's like,
And the thing is, the parents are more concerned with, like, a different form of problematic, where they're like cursing. As the person who answered the emails for the high school director to the parents who were complaining about, oh my God, we can't have a gay character on stage.
Yep. But we can have an abusive relationship on stage.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
I think in general it's interesting what parents are okay with their kids. Like, rampant misogyny is fine, but nothing sexual.
Yeah,
No,
like, okay,
nothing.
we were not allowed to have the middle finger in our show of Grease, but then we kept in the scene during the dance where they lift up the woman's skirt when she's dancing. We kept that in. We kept in the scene where Danny is kind of, like, getting too handsy with Sandy. Kept that in.
Well,
That's
I mean,
because,
the whole the song is a little
creepy. A little rapey.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Go back to Miss Saigon.
But back to Saigon, I just think it's interesting that there are these populations that we underrepresent in theater and kind of give no opportunity, and then when articles like this come out, we kind of tend to ignore them. Or we tend to be like, oh yeah, that's so terrible, but then we don't do anything about
Well, I think
it.
one really important point this article made is that, on one hand, The King and I and Miss Saigon are, like, really bad representation, example representation of Asian people, and then on the other hand, you get rid of those, and there are no opportunities for Asian performers, which doesn't mean leave those shows in. It means we need shows that don't yet exist.
Yeah.
Or rather, shows that exist but have not been performed frequently. Because I'm sure plenty of shows have been written.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, like, also sort of the advent of, race blind or not being so concerned with race when you cast is going to be helpful in performing kind of the work that's already in the canon in a way that is not horrible, or in a way that allows us to do those works and not do like these ones. So the article that's coming to mind right now is one that, not one we're discussing today, but one that came out on the blog a couple weeks ago about the Asian American actress who had been cast in Cat in the Haunted Roof. And like, she was the first ever to play the lead in Cat in the Haunted Roof, the first ever Asian American. And I was like, yes, let's let them do the roles they want and not be like, no, you can only play these 4 roles.
Yeah, but like, let's not confuse. That is purposely casting a person of color in a role that is not written. Like with not a character that is a person of color, which is really, really good, and it's not race blind. Like, let's just like back away from that term, because that's also the term race blind is used so often for like what happened at like the Mikado last year. There was like a
that's
Yellowface. That was Yellowface, but they were like, oh, it's race blind.
Or that production.
I don't
of
think
the
anyone who
Mountain Top
understands
where
what the practice of race blind would ever call that race blind. I think that's someone using the term as an excuse.
It's a term that's being bastardized.
I hate to interrupt, but we're running slow on time.
Okay.
One more article.
Move on.
Sorry.
So, closing of this podcast, we'll be talking about could immersive theater be merging with the theme parks in Disney's Star Wars land? So much of this article was in a video. Briefly looked at the video, but let's just kind of discuss this topic. I kind of wanted to start it. I mean, like, even in the title, it's kind of just misleading from the very beginning, because one would argue that theater has kind of already been interweaved into the themed entertainment world.
I also found this article really interesting because they, like, that title, obviously you're expecting them to talk about, maybe doing more, like, interactive storylines with the actors that they have and whatnot, but the majority of the article is actually talking about the development of, like, automatrons and robots and whatnot to be, like, the interactive element of the park, which I find is more, the human-computer interaction world and not really drawing from immersive theater.
And honestly, you can make the argument that the Disney parks have always been immersive. Because the characters you see stay in character. Like, Cinderella will always talk to you like Cinderella.
And I mean, they're also, like, they've always been intertwined in that the same people that work on themed entertainment tend to also work in the theater industry.
I mean, they call them cast members. Anyone that the audience sees at Disney is a person.
I mean, I worked with one of my actors this summer. He and his husband had just come back from Tokyo, and he had been playing, I believe, like Prince Charming and Prince Eric at Disney Tokyo.
Nice.
But he was a theater actor. Like, that's where the world those people are coming from, and a lot of the people that do the designs of these parks are also coming from theater and live entertainment backgrounds.
I mean, I feel like kind of the whole point of the themed entertainment is you're bringing your viewer into a world, and you want to make them feel part of this world. And so you have, like, the set dressings, and you have all the stuff that extreme parallels between theater. But then as soon as you try and get into, like, that immersive experience where you're, like, interacting with the environment and you're interacting with the people, like when you go to Disney and you interact with the people in costume, like, that is kind of the point here. And I think that has already shown there's already so many parallels between that and theater, just from what we've all said so far. The fact that they refer to them as cast, they're, just the people that they're hiring in general are theater professionals or theater people that are in the theater world. I know that, like, even people like me and you, or technicians, like, a lot, we see it, even out of Carnegie Mellon, we see a lot of people going to these parks, so they're having an influence on the direction of which these parks are taking. So I'm sure it's like a whole bunch of, there's a whole bunch of variables that are being collected, and now we're just kind of starting to define this as.
So I think it's exciting that, like, they're doing more, work with robotics and the whole point of this article was that Disney recently filed patents for, it was like human-like robots, essentially. I forget the
Yeah.
exact term, but
The uncanny valley.
yeah.
Awaits them.
Yes. Anyway, so so I think that's really exciting. But I think to pose the question of the article as could immersive theater be merging is kind of off topic because it already very much is.
Any closing thoughts?
Great.
Well,
Alright.
thank you so much for
Thanks
watching our
for tuning
podcast.
in.
Again, I'm Kelly.
Chris,
Helena,
Lauren.
Julian.
until next time.
thank you.
Thanks.
If there is one.